John Healey's worst interview yet. The Defence Secretary stumbled through a grilling on asylum seeker accommodation, the Angela Rayner controversy, and the contentious reshuffle, appearing defensive, ambiguous, and circling crucial issues. This was far from a convincing performance, with unclear responses and ducking accountability, leaving many wondering if Healey knows what he's doing. Stay closely, because this one is packed of embarrassing moments. And if you don't want to miss any more political train wrecks, make sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. Now let's get into the interview and break it down.
Is it right that Angela Rayner is going to get a severance payment of £17,000 for loss of office?
Well, this will be a matter for Angela, whether she decides to accept it or not. But what we've done and Keir Starmer's done since coming into government is changed and tightened the rules over severance payments. So we don't see in the future what we saw under the Tories, where you had ministers serving for a week and then helping themselves to severance payments.
Indeed, you're going to change the rules in October. So many people might then say, actually, since you've already said this shouldn't happen, she and indeed some of her other colleagues should say, no, we're not going to take it.
Well, we tightened up the rules to stop what we saw under the Tories. What Angela decides to do will simply be a matter for her to decide.
All right. This weekend, most of your cabinet colleagues are boning up on their new briefs. Congratulations on keeping yours. You don't have to read the volumes. But does this extensive reshuffle suggest that the Prime Minister thinks that the change he promised last year just wasn't being delivered?
Well, I still have plenty to read, I have to say. No, what I think it marks is the end of a first year in which we had to get to grips with the fact that last government crashed the economy, they'd wrecked the NHS, they'd hollowed out the armed forces. So we've spent a really tough first year clearing up the mess, and now we're starting to rebuild, we're starting to renew. And what Keir Starmer has done is put a new team in place and said to us all, you've got to go up a gear. And you've got to go up a gear to demonstrate that government can deliver for people. And what that means is that we've got to start to show that we can help change people's lives, make them better off and make them more secure. That is the challenge for each and every one of us now in this new cabinet.
But there is a contrast. I mean, people will say, John Healey, he's been there a year, done well, he knows the job. But he's wiped out pretty much the whole Home Office team who, it could be argued, are just getting to grips with the job. Surely this must suggest that what he thinks is that the handling of the small boats, for example, just hasn't been done.
So I think what you should see from Keir Starmer's reshuffle as a whole, never mind the Home Office, is a year of starting to sort out the biggest aspects of the mess we had, put in place some of the foundations on which we now can build. On the Home Office, look, on the Home Office, Shabana Mahmood will now build on the fact that Yvette Cooper has deported 35,000 people who've got no right to be here, a National Crime Agency that has undertaken over 300 raids on smuggling gangs.
I understand the point.
And for the first time, and this is for Yvette Cooper's credit, a returns arrangement with France. So for the first time, we're detaining some of these people coming across in small boats, and we will deport them to France later this month.
If she has done so well in these last 14 months, why move her? Why not let her get on with the job in the way that he's allowed you to get on the job?
Because I think Keir Starmer has decided that as part of going up a gear, demonstrating the next phase of delivery, he wants Shabana Mahmood, who's done so well getting to grips with the prisons crisis, to do that in the Home Office, and he's going to use the skill that Yvette Cooper has shown in striking a returns deal with France, which the Conservatives couldn't do. And I have to say... It's
still not quite a question to my answer. He's left you where you are because you're thought to be successful, and everybody's got confidence in you. You've read into the job. You know the people and all the rest of it. Why move somebody that you're now telling me has done a terrific job?
Look, in many ways I contest this whole idea that somehow government's not been successful, or that the last week has simply been a government focused on Angela Rayner and the reshuffle. There's another story this last week, which is that Bridget Phillipson has extended free childcare and funded childcare that will save parents £7,000 a year. Yvette Cooper tightened up the rules for refugee families coming to Britain. I was in Norway. After we won the biggest ever British warship contract with Norway, £10 billion, that will help secure 4,000 jobs for the next 15 years. And you will see more of that tomorrow when we launch our defence industrial strategy.
Let me just give you one more go on one other area then. The team handling the Employment Rights Bill, which is one of your flagship bills, Angela Rayner, gone for reasons we all know, and also Justin Madders, who was actually handling the bill. He's now been moved. Is it your plan now, as some suspect, we're hearing that from the TUC, some union leaders, I should say, this morning, that it's now your plan to water down the Employment Rights Bill?
No, I think the plan to upgrade what will be the biggest upgrade in workers' rights for a generation, led by Angela Rayner, is one of the marks of how effective she's been as a minister and what a loss she'll be to government. It is part of the Labour commitment to the public. When we were elected last year, it was in our manifesto. We will deliver an upgrade in workers' rights, and we will deliver also part of Angela Rayner's other legacy, which is planning reforms that will help us build the homes we need in this country.
When you say an upgrade, does that mean that we can expect no changes to the bill that has been proposed by Angela Rayner on employment rights, day one rights, hire and fire provisions and so on?
I'm really confident that we'll deliver what we promised in the manifesto, the biggest upgrade in workers' rights for a generation. The bill's been the bill's been set out and will now pursue through Parliament.
Or are you saying that now there's a new team, there might be some changes in that bill?
No, I'm saying that the new team will take up the work that Angela Rayner and Justin Madders have already done. They will pick up the commitments we've made in the manifesto to the British people, and we will rebalance the security that people at work these days simply don't have, but will in the future because of a Labour government.
All right, well, just one very quick one. One job that's not in the Prime Minister's gift is the role of Deputy Leader of the party. That person's got to be elected by the members. Does the appointment of Mr Lammy as Deputy Prime Minister imply that he's the Leader's preferred candidate? Or is that going to be Shabana Mahmood, as we're hearing this morning?
No, it doesn't. They're two separate jobs, two very important jobs. The Deputy Leader of the Labour Party is an important job and an important vote for Labour Party members, but it is separate from the role in government, and it's the Prime Minister that appoints the Deputy Prime Minister. He's done that with David Lammy.
That's interesting, because historically they've been the same person, John Prescott, now Angela Rayner and so on. But you expect them to be different people now?
Well, I know they're separate jobs. I know they're both important jobs. One's elected, one's appointed. And Keir Starmer's the Prime Minister that appoints all government ministers, and he's appointed David Lammy as the Deputy Prime Minister. All
right, let's talk about the new appointments. Probably the most important one, or certainly the one that people talk about most, is Shabana Mahmood. Her first headache is the arrest of 400 people protesting the prescription of Palestine action. Are you prepared for this to go on week after week, with police hauling people off the streets right outside the studio here?
If we want to avoid a two-tier policing and justice system in this country, when people break the law, there have to be consequences. That's what was happening yesterday. And almost everyone, shares the agony when we see the images from Gaza, the anguish when we see the man-made starvation. And for people who want to voice their concern and protest, I applaud them. But that does not require them to link it to support for Palestine Action, a prescribed group. And I wonder how many of those people protesting in Parliament Square yesterday realise that members of this group have attacked police with sledgehammers, have been responsible for criminal damage, and have been planning other acts of similar violence. And it was those steps advised by the security agencies and the police, the Joint Terrorism Analysis Unit, that led to the decision the government to prescribe Palestine action.
Let's be clear. There are different groups of people here, and as you say, police were abused. There were people who came clearly to make trouble and so on. But many of those were not people carrying the placards. The people who were being taken off. I physically saw them. I saw some of them as I left here yesterday being carried off. And they were, if I can put it this way, elderly peaceniks, a lot of them. And they are going to come back week after week after week. Is the government really just going to let this go on?
So I would say to people like that, look, voice your concerns.
Police officers who should be arresting people for burglaries, who are going to be out on Parliament Square every Saturday doing this.
So I would say to those people, voice your concerns, protest on the streets, challenge us as a government to do what we can to relieve the suffering in Gaza. But that does not need to be linked with support for Palestine Action, which is a prescribed
So to be
group.
absolutely clear, there's going to be no retreat, no change in government policy on this issue.
I expect Shabana Mahmood to be just as tough as Yvette Cooper, and I expect her to defend the decision the government's taken to prescribe Palestine Action because of what some of its members are responsible for and were planning, and I expect her to do that in the courts as well.
All right.
Wow, that was evasive, perplexing, and frankly, a bit of a disaster. John Healey avoided questions, evaded accountability, and gave one of the least convincing interviews we've seen from a senior minister in recent years. From military installations for asylum seekers to avoiding accountability on government reshuffles, he appeared to be entirely out of his depth. The fundamental question today is whether the public can trust him to manage one of the most important posts in government. Or has this revealed a severe lack of leadership and clarity inside Starmer's cabinet? This was more than simply political spin. It was political damage control and not the successful sort. So what are your thoughts? Was it just a poor day for John Healey, or does this indicate that he isn't up to the job? Please share your ideas in the comments section, and remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell for more coverage of the most revealing political showdowns. We want to hear from you. Please share your opinions below.